share screen in your host disabled participant screen sharing.
Yeah. Try again, please.
Namaste. Today's topic is corruption and plunder of the exchequer. So we, instead of going by different regimes, like, what happened during Bajpayee's period or Narasimha Rao, I just picked up, as I explained last time, I picked up the major events and trends which affected the life of the people. So it is not as much as A did this or B did this. They all did it together. And what was the impact on the general public? So by this time, Congress is firmly established, and we are talking about, say, 80s, a little after that. And we will see how the corruption penetrated in a horizontal way, like in every single department. And also it spread vertically. Like if the minister is doing it, then naturally the officers are doing it and everybody else is doing it. So now, why I have to bring in Gandhi? Because it is legacy of Gandhi. This too is legacy of Gandhi. Not many people will believe it, but when he was, India was not independent, and then he, on behalf of Birla, he went to the British government viceroy to buy the materials from Birla. So that was one of the instances that caught me. And then Nehru, of course, Birla, he again requested to Birla in 1947 that all the blankets and the sheets should be supplied to the refugees. So that again was influence peddling and corruption. So then Indira Gandhi to Narasimha Rao, it was a whole level of corruption. So up to 71, I was in Calcutta. There was no corruption in public offices because the labor was so hostile to the management in every single sector, private or public, that whatever the officers or the higher ups did, it became suddenly a scandal and something to outrage or stir up the labor movement. So therefore, there was at that time up to 71. But when I was transferred to Punjab, it was a whole different game. There, everybody was corrupt, and I was surprised. What's going on here? So it was like established pattern. So Indira Gandhi herself was very corrupt and was involved in several scandals. And Narasimha Rao, he was just a pawn. And when he asserted himself, Sonia Gandhi was very annoyed. And somehow or other, there was a scandal. Somebody gave the money and it became open. So then that is the time Rajiv Gandhi was dead already and Sonia Gandhi was firmly established. as the Queen of India. She was in charge of the Congress. She was in charge of the archives. She was in charge of uh, all the treasures that were stacked in different museums, and uh, the Prime Minister's fund. So everything was now under her control. So control of the Congress assets now. And as you have recently seen, one of those assets was that symbol, Sangol symbol, which he did not even value that it is the symbol of India's past to the present. It was a link. And he just put it away, and somebody labeled it Nehru's stick. When was Nehru needing a gold stick, and that also so big? Anyway, so strange thing happened. I put a reply to the Twitter today, this morning, that when did the Nehru needed a stick, and did he ever use a stick during his lifetime? And very strangely, I got a message from Twitter that um, uh, I am suicidal, and I am putting other people, inviting them to do suicide. In these three lines, I just simply was looking. For 10 minutes, I was staring, and then I thought I'll deal with it later. But how their algorithms interpret things, it is strange. Now, this is something very important. She became lifelong chairman of the Trimurti Bhavan, where all the national archives were there. And influence peddling started during a long time back. Indira Gandhi was taking openly money from Russia. Russia has had access to the files, and then they had offshore deposits. And this was funneling money, money laundering. You may call any of those things that are unconstitutional and anti-national. Looting of the princely states. Even I did not realize that somewhere along the line, the princes were not entitled to the privy purses. And that was something I did not know. And when I was researching the whole thing, I came to understand that they have broken the promise. When the merger was taking place, it was given in writing that the government of India will not take away their personal collection and treasures, which they had built over centuries as a dynasty or kingdom, and they will not take away their private residence, and it will pass on to the princes. So, and I thought that this must be going on. Karan Singh is there. Digvijay Singh also belongs Scindia, another family. And Maharani of Jaipur was there. And somewhere along the line, there was a small little amendment, even when Nehru was alive, and of course, Patel was gone. That is when they stopped the salaries and titles of the princely states, the princes who inherited the estate. And the private estate itself was taken over by the government, and they opened it as resorts, hotels. I know Lalita Palace in Mysore, and that was a king's private residence. It is taken over. Now it is a hotel. Same thing with many other palaces, uh, it became the government's way of making money. In other words, private estate was nationalized, kind of. So personal collections were taken away. And ostentiously, it was said that, well, these are going to the museums because they are one of a kind things, but they never made it to the museum. So Indira Gandhi's secret raid of Jaipur. This also I recently came to know when I was researching that when Indira Gandhi put the emergency and put Maharani of Jaipur in the prison, and then she secretly, with her own private mafia, she started digging out the dungeons of Jaipur Palace for the treasures, hidden treasures. This was something, which was mind-boggling. That you have put an 80 years old person in the prison, but no, just because she is saying that something is wrong with the country and the economy, and on top of that, you are taking away, all her treasure, digging out. So these were all the secret missions going on. Nothing was transparent, and everything was smelled corruption. Starting at the top, corruption percolated to the lower ranks. The entire bureaucracy participated in this activity. Chidambaran perfected the art of siphoning money. So this, I really, even though I have a economics background, even I could not understand the detailed working, how the non-participatory notes were suddenly becoming currency. So it was such a kind of, loop, and that it really took me a while to understand how did they do it. So there was a private advisory committee which was running parallel to the government. Actually, the government was in name, whoever was the prime minister. Everything was decided between 5, 6 people, and they decided everything. Then all the files went back to at 4:30 to the prime minister, and then he would simply sign. So in the morning, everything will go that this is today's issue, and then they would perfect it. So Chidambaran was one of them, and Ahmed Patel played a key role. Some of the Salma Khurshid, that was another some person. So like that, there were 5, 6 who were always in the loop and made the decisions outside the parliament. And how this system worked, to the best of my understanding, it was that money was sent to Mauritius offshore, and then it was sent via ICI. That is why they could never take any action against Pakistan or even reprimand them for anything, because they were in the hands of their secrets were in the hand of Pakistan. So it went through ISI and channeled to Dubai. From there, it was transferred as non-participatory notes to Germany, because Germany was the only country which agreed that we will accept this. Now they have converted into money back again, taking those notes, and then it was deposited in some account in Switzerland. From Switzerland, a new account was opened, and then it was being spent by whoever it belonged to. Swami Subramaniam Swami, when he was digging it up and exposing these people, he wrote a huge article, and that is where I got this information. And this was rampant. Many people were involved in that. So corruption covers by now, all spheres of life, from booking a train ticket to getting admission in school, in the hospital, you name it. In fact, there was an interesting incident from Jalandhar in 1977. I sent a telegram to Butala, and the guy took this is the same place where upstairs I was the senior superintendent 6 years back. So the Babu, he took the money, and I'm waiting for the change. And he's looking at me like this. Now what? What do you want? I said, I think you owe me money. He gave me the money and didn't send the telegram. So it caused such an inconvenience that my brothers came a day ahead because they never got the telegram. So this is the corruption in small little things. And same thing, traveling from Ludhiana to Amritsar, the guy took the money and just pocketed. And after that, I reminded him that to owe me 20 rupees. You see, 20 rupees is not a big deal. The point is the principle of it. So I kept nagging him right up to Amritsar, and he gave it to me. But it left a very bad taste in my mouth that what has happened to the country, or is still happening. So during my visit to India in 2012, I coined I added this. Everybody in the government knew that they are corrupt. Even their peon, fourth grade employee, knew that everybody is corrupt. And he too is participant in that. But it was not like open in the public. Public did not discuss it except privately, like, corruption is too much and all that. So I'll come back to this line because, yes. So this is the main proverb. Is hamam mein sab nange hain. What does that mean? In this tub, everybody is naked. In other words, everybody knows that he's corrupt and she's corrupt, like that. I added in 2012 this line, और ये हमाम अब चौराहे पे है. They have dragged, now it is public knowledge in everybody's knowledge, from poor to the high up. And that whole bathtub is in the public square. Charaha is public square. So it started with some of the major ones. State Bank of India fraud was during Indira Gandhi, and nothing happened to her. But the manager of the State Bank, he was suspended. And then after that, Bofors. This was a deal for the military aircraft, and that was a scandal. And during Rajiv Gandhi, he did take money. And the Swedish government informed the public that something like this has happened. Of course, nothing happened to Rajiv. Nothing was meant to happen. Inquiry was there. Harshad Mehta case, this was his money given in a suitcase to Narasimha Rao. And he did not expect, and he did not even know what it is for, but a suitcase full of money came, and somehow or other he was framed. He was made to resign because Narasimha Rao was an idealist, and many of the things that Sonia Gandhi was doing, he kind of he did not like. Somebody has a conscience and he would not agree with what was going on. So he was an eyesore for her. So was another person, Sitaram Kesri, who was the Congress president off and on. And finally, he was checked out of that position permanently. No other person could hold that office, chairman of Congress, except the immediate family of Nehru. So scams in the defense ministry, everything which is coming bought from foreign countries, that had to be, padded up in several different ways. So by 2004, Bajpayee was defeated, and then the designated prime minister was Manmohan Singh. Manmohan Singh had great qualification to be fit for that role, like a puppet, because from very early on, he would just mumble. He had communication problem, and he could not meet you in the eyes and make a statement. So with the back towards you, he'll make a statement, and then he will do whatever you ask him to do. I personally know that we called him mumbling professor. He was a professor of agricultural economics in Chandigarh, and I was a student. So I know how he mumbled with his back towards the students and writing from his notes. So perfect person to do the bidding of the Congress president. So there was Colgate scam. In other words, the natural resources belonging to the government are auctioned in a certain way. Certain notices given, tenders are invited, and it's a certain legal procedure. So at that time, Manmohan Singh not only was the prime minister, he was also the coal minister. So it was that he was directly involved in that scam. Then there was 2G scam, where some people, tenders were not invited, and suddenly 24 hours before, A. Raja, who was the telecom minister, he said that he announced that it is going to be not based on an auction, it will be based on who comes first. If you leak this kind of information, obviously the person who comes to know first runs, and a couple of them will get the bidding and accepting. So then the Commonwealth Games came. And this scam, when I read the details, this was pretty interesting. You see, even for a small little thing like a toilet paper, it was padded. Something, the box was bought for $2, it was shown $80. I mean, probably $80 at that time was worth about 3 grams of gold. So this is how much. And the living space for the Commonwealth players was very shabby, very unclean. And then the equipment that the Indian government was supposed to supply to the Commonwealth Committee, that was not there. So many international participants complained that they are never going to participate here. If the equipment is not there, how are we going to do our play? And Augusta Westland This was the VVIP, very, very important people. Choppers were bought, helicopters with nth degree security and everything, and luxury and comfort. So this was an Italian merchant who was going to supply, and this became a very widespread scandal. And this one, when I investigated, saw the original papers which came out, it was there. I mean, handwritten notes by Ahmed Patel, by Tyagi, who was a defense head of the army, and then the defense minister, and then personal signature of Sonia Gandhi. And you see, these were scribbled notes in manuscript, but signature could be seen and that it is such and such person. So if this Pandora box could have been investigated and brought to the Supreme Court, it really had ample evidence what was going on and could be stopped. But then, is hammam mein sab nange hai. Everybody is naked in the tub. Who will do whatever is necessary to be done? Then this is Nalanda University scam, all paper castle. This was a really classic example of paper castle. There was no university, right? The name was there on the file, Nalanda University. 5 mentors are there. The chairman of Nalanda University was Amritya Sen. I don't know what is his qualification to be the chancellor of that. And then 4 professors were hired, several lakhs of rupees involving. They were from Delhi University. And the students are supposed to be internationally, it was an international university. Now, this is prior to the Zoom business. I mean, somewhere like 2009, 10, that is time frame. And I don't think there was anything like online or something. So it was supposed to be real, one-to-one. There was no class taken. Where was the class taken? Nobody knew. Where is the headquarters? They said it is for the time being in Delhi, but it will go to Patna because Nalanda was in Bihar. So right now nothing is there, but crores of rupees every year was assigned, so much salary for the 2 daughters of Manmohan Singh. One is living here in America. They were involved as they were professors sitting here. Amritya Sen himself lived here, and 2 professors were there. The main person who played the games on behalf of Sonia Gandhi and funneled the money, that was a person who belonged to the Vatican. How he got hired, we don't know. And so he did everything, directed who gets this much money for this much, all paper cast. How many students are enrolled? Nobody knew. So when in 2014, Modi came and he said, where is this Nalanda University? And please, he asked the CAG, Auditor General, that please have the transparency. Let us see the files where it is and let it get going. Nothing was there except the salaries and the scheme and things like that. So he closed the university. First, he changed Amritya Sen that it is not a lifelong post, and he nominated that Vatican guy, and the government of India did not accept that. And they asked for all the expenses and how many students were there, which could not be produced, and the university was closed. So, I mean, each Ghotala scam literally can take a small 100-page, 200-page book. So you can understand how difficult it is to sandwich it, every scam, in just one page. So then there is Bollywood mafia, drug mafia, you name it, everything is mafia. In modern days, the onset of cancers devours the body, and it is, I'm taking this as an example. Eventually, the parasitic effect is that the other cells and organs become so weak that they produce their own parasite to aid the invading parasite. So this is called parasitic effect in medical language. And this natural law of the body chemistry and anatomy applies to corruption as well. That once it starts, it has to go down, 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 because the chaprasi knows, the peon knows that the up there he has taken 5,000 rupees. And then the chaprasi says to the client, where is my money? You have given 5,000, at least give me 500. And the head clerk also. So this is parasitic fact, where every level becomes so contaminated, it has to die. I mean, it cannot be uh, cured, and it could not be even yeah, prevented further from spreading. So, Prime Minister proclaimed himself as the clean Prime Minister. He said, I am not involved in anything. Ask the minister. Somebody made a cartoon. I saw that cartoon, couldn't get the copyright. Sitting on the mountain of shit, the Prime Minister proclaimed himself as the clean Prime Minister. So you see, that is where sometimes, in Punjabi, they say, when the extreme of cruelty and mismanagement and corruption and everything, it's called atyachar, oppression, comes, then a divine intervention happens. And nobody, could believe that. Now we do. So, plunder of the natural resources. This is really mind boggling and very sad. So, smuggling of rare sands. What are these sands? On the sides, on the beaches of the south, and on the river sides, even Yamuna, and they have a rare sand which have thorium, which have nuclear material making stuff, chemicals. So all of those different names, those are the sands. And they say so much sand was sold, smuggled out and sold to China, that for the next 24,000 years, they have capability of making nuclear reactors with thorium. You see, mind-boggling. 24,000 years worth of the entire globe can make reactors with that. So state level corruption, I have given several influences. Kerala was one of them, where the hoax was this, that they started a uplift of the agricultural sector in Kerala. I'm just giving a case example. And that was where it was supposed to be given for marriage loans or money uh, to in charity for the marriage of the poor girls and for the agricultural equipment, for the seeds, for the education of the poor people, and like that. Now, who were the poor people benefiting from these schemes? These were the people who were supposed to first get converted. That is the condition of getting these kind of charitable benefits was that first you become Christian and then you are entitled for this. This is exactly the opposite of the Reservation Act, which said that if you are Dalit, oppressed, culturally disadvantaged, you will get the reservation and the benefits. Here, they are asking them to first become Christian. If you become Christian, you don't have Dalits then, because they believe that we don't have untouchables and like that. They are on very high moral ground. So this scheme is still going on because it's a communist government, and somehow or other the powers of the uh, state governments is extremely um, much more than anywhere else in a democracy. Let us put it this way. So, in other words, the constitution itself gave so much power to the states that the state on their own could run against the government, and they are running against the central government. In political science, there are words like centrifugal and centripetal. You see, power emanates from outside, going towards center, and power emanating from the center. So the ratio of that determines the strength of a democracy, according to our knowledge of political science. So it is strange that Indians are not concerned at all, even today. When outside organizations create a roadmap to subvert the legislative process, encouraging significant policy changes to be enacted through executive, and the Indian says that doesn't matter. What have we to do with this? Whereas you have everything to do with it. Okay. Case against demolition of Ram Setu. This again was part of corruption, that it will, several crores and crores of money was involved. The idea was, and it was the idea given by America, that instead of going around the Indian Ocean, we should go through the Strait of Sri Lanka, and all the ships will cut short and go to Arabian Sea straight away. So this was the idea. And then they said, then the question was raised that it's only a geological wonder, we can destroy it. And it has nothing to do with, in fact, there was no Shri Ram, and it's not an architectural marvel. It doesn't mean any sanctity. It doesn't have any sanctity. So the demolition plan, the motive was to siphon the money. The contract may go anywhere. Half the money of the contract will come to us first, and then the plan will start. So this was one motive. The second was the pressure from the foreign governments to weaken the symbols and pilgrimage places of Hinduism. This was against that. And the third motive was just to be in the face of Hindus. So the Christians supported this plan. And this is how the demolition plan. So now we have to understand, if anybody knows, I don't know, but how the Ram Setu was built. First of all, at that time, Setu itself was very small because the water level was low, and the Ram, and there is a small island that was land. So from that island to Dhanushkoti was barely 3 kilometers, not even that. It was later on when the water level, after centuries, went high and the submerged island was there. Now you have to go from Rameshwaram to that island first, and by boat, and then the bridge begins. The bridge itself, under the water in that area, these are mountain ridges. Now, if anybody has studied geology, I did. These mountains in the ocean, they take several billion years to become that hard. They are ridges. So what the army of Sri Ram did was they floated the spongy shoals, which had the capacity to float around. So it was, they threw those, and then on the bridges, ridges, they jumped from one ridge to another and put a rope on both sides to the last end and this end. So now they have a roadway kind of plan. In this area only, they will put shoals. On that, they'll put wood, and wood also is lighter. Then they would put some sand, then they will put some shoals. So it's a layer by layer construction, and there is a curve like this. So it's really an architectural marvel. At least it deserves to be the international world heritage. So now, how do you demolish it? Now, why I had to bring it out? Because if you demolish it, you have to demolish the mountains, mountain ridges. So the army itself, Navy, objected to it because it was, they said that in the end, we are only saving 3 hours. For 3 hours, you are going to destroy this biodiversity in that area, and rare biodiversity, and disturb the ecosystem of the ocean. And it is environmentally wrong, as well as it is almost impossible. And what for? Saving 3 hours of the ship. So they objected. But then, the state government had its own piece of pie. Sonia Gandhi had its own. And Manmohan Singh was nowhere, but he was agreeing. So the environmental impact was there, and difficulties in demolition. So when they started with the huge cranes to chip away the mountain ridges, the crane broke. So now we have a problem. Not only we have to remove the ridges and demolish them, we have a crane to uplift also, which is lying there broken. So at this point, they are in juncture. What to do? Difficulties of demolition are very. 8 people went from central ministry, 4 people joined from state government, and they all went to examine the site. And their cars, both the cars crashed. So And when this case was brought to court by legendary Subramaniam Swamy. I think he was a whistleblower in several of these scams. He was a law minister at the time of Bajpai. So he's a Harvard PhD professor in economics. So, and his wife is a lawyer, and he was the law minister. So he knew nitty gritty of every single thing. Brilliant mind. So he brought the court case. And Karunanidhi was at that time the state chief minister. He said, um, who was Ramchandar an engineer? Which college did he study from? And Subramaniam Swamy said that right here there is a Karunanidhi hospital. Which college did Karunanidhi did his medical degree? So it was interesting kind of story. Subramaniam wrote Ram Setu, a book. So his fight against scams, judicial recourse, the last way of getting intervention. And then in one of his appearances, he said that he said to the judge that this is impossible. If you cannot break one ridge, how do you think 3 kilometers of area would be broken? You see, and how will you haul that heavy material up to make it smooth? And plus, it is all sandy beaches, both from Sri Lanka and from India. It will do the sedimentation. So every year you will be cleaning up the whole thing, the channel. So it is absolutely a disaster. And jokingly, Subramaniam Swamy said that, whoever has tried so far has met a fatal end. And the judge said, like what? And he said that, first the crane broke down. And then those who went to see the disaster, their cars crashed. And the judge said that, Mr. Swamy, do you think that if I give the judgment against Ram Setu, I will perish? And he just started laughing. It's hilarious kind of, case worth reading. So he did, shed light. But then again, you see, nothing, there was no mechanism. Vigilance Commission required another anti-vigilance commission. So it was nowhere to be solved. Minority appeasement through temple funds. So demolition, this donations of the temple, this was another scam. And till this day, it has not gone. The bottom line is BJP rule may mean 100 things to 100 different people. But Congress rule means only one thing to every single Hindu, that it is they are facing the rule of Sharia. So this message, the idea of corruption and terrorism and separatism and underhand mafia rule, the point which I want to make is that on the name of appeasement, you are taking temple funds, giving salaries to imams, to madrasas, to the Christian charities, to the Christian hospitals, to the churches, and the salaries of the priests. You see, what is going on? And Hajj money is given out of that. You see, what is this? And everybody who, the tourists, they go there and complain, the temples are so dirty and the approach roads are so dirty. How can they build the approach road if they have no control? So the security guards and they are sitting right there, how dare you put the money anywhere else except in the safe. So this, whether Modi will continue or Yogi will continue, this basic fact that the rot which has happened during the Congress rule, if it is allowed even in 5 states and it spreads, it means we are facing very soon the rule of Sharia. So I can go all on and on, the Hajj eating the field, MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. This was a secret kept from Parliament between the Priyanka Vadra and Sonia Gandhi, Rahul. Even Manmohan Singh was not in the picture. And it was leaked in a small little piece in the Chinese newspaper. Otherwise, it was not even known. And then Chinese government, in return, was giving funds to Rajiv Foundation. And at some point, they asked that we are giving you so much fund, withdraw your army from Siachen Glacier. And the government, Manmohan Singh, was prepared to do that. Imagine how crucial is Siachen Glacier. That's the only place left between Aksai chain and Pakistan occupied Kashmir. That if you give that away, you don't have any buffer at all, and any high spot from where you can hit the enemy. So luckily, the army made so much noise that it did not mature. Government schemes everywhere, it was inbuilt, the auctions. Rare treasures were collected on the name of that they belong to archives, auctioned in Europe, USA. Many bribe givers were happy. This is another fault line we still have. Even though Modi says there should be clean government, but people themselves are so used to bribery. And they come to the chartered accountant and say, you are charging us, say, 2,000 rupees as your fee, whereas, we can give a little bit money to different levels and get it over with. And even if we give you the money as your fee, we'll still be handing over the penalty, some penalties, and all that. Everything will not be waived. So you see, people themselves became participants in this chain. Public outrage, if it was made, it never made it through the media. So silence is golden, and Hindus are accessory to everything. The media can barely interpret reality. Who they know truth? So now the question is, the British loot for 250 years, comparison with Congress loot over 7 decades. If you start counting that, and then you can say, ask the question, are we better off in terms of not counting these last 8 years before that? Were we better off than we were under the British? Or we are in the same body grounds, we cannot get out of that. So did the government of Janta Dal in 77 and Bajpayee remove any corruption? Bajpayee himself had nothing, Morarji Desai and his entire cabinet, they were all incompetent idealist Gandhi-wadi. So they believed in Gandhi. So they were first-class fools, stupid to the nth degree. And Bajpayee, he was helpless because corruption was so much and time was too short. And there were a lot of scandals during his time also. Vigilance Commission, anti-vigilance, whole rigmarole, cover up. And that is where Modi stepped in. And if we are expecting that Modi will do wonders in municipality of Jalandhar, for example, it's not going to happen. People themselves to have a conscience and be a participant, vigilant participant in the clean government, because it is your government, it is your responsibility. So, by the way, America is on way to where India was in 2014. Okay, so namaste. That is all I wanted to say. And now, if there are questions,
Yeah, feel free to unmute yourself and ask your questions.
no questions. Really? Did I cover every ground that there is no question?
Kamlesh,
Oh, hi.
this is Nandi. No,
Yeah.
you are talking about that shoals, that Ram Setu.
Yes.
Now, no, is there any kind of construction with the wood and all those things there, or what?
No, nothing.
How-
No. What happened was that by the time the court case was still going on, and the cost of making the setu became phenomenally high in 5 years. So
Okay.
it was economically it was not viable. It was not because of the court case that it was given up, because it was not viable. So many difficulties were there, so many failures, and the cost of construction was so high. So that is why it was government abandoned, in other words. For
No,
the time.
actually, Subramaniam Swami brought a piece of that stone, that shoal, to New Jersey. And he showed it to us, how it floats in the water. So,
Yeah.
so it is in that area, it's only the shoals that is blocking the passage of the ship from this side to the other side. There is nothing else.
Yeah.
Is that? And I understand.
Mm.
And I understand.
Are everywhere.
Huh?
Shores are in every ocean. You see, there are reefs which are porous. And similarly, we see, the nearby diverse kind of growth, and they are
Okay.
shoals, and they float around the
Okay.
reefs. They
Okay.
move. They are light. Yeah.
See,
Anyway, there is another objection from America that when they examined the rocks and some of the and carbon dated it, I don't know how they did it. And they said that it is 170 million years old. And can you prove that Rama was that old? Now, what is the answer to this? The material you use for your house may be 100 years old. That doesn't mean your house is 100 years old.
okay. Okay.
You can think
Yeah.
of that. I am using marble. Carbon dated marble is granite is like 2,500 years old. It takes layers and layers and layers sedimentation. So these are chemical compositions take years. So
See, actually, I did a little research on the antiquity of studies on the antiquity of Ramayana. I even presented it at a. See, I have an understanding that in ancient time, it was a kind of passage over. It was over the water. See, like in Dwarka, the Sri Krishna's capital is underwater. Now, it was not underwater all the time. It was built over the ground at some time. So in ancient time, I do not know how long in the past, it was a kind of passage cross, going from Sri Lanka to India, and people would be traveling on that. There would be trade and other things. And, like Shurpanakha, who was wandering around, Rama's camp. So how could she have traveled there if there is no access excepting by, what you call Pushpak Rath, which Ravan used? So I think it is something much deeper than that. Is history need to be, investigated, understood, and explained. So, I just wanted to thought that I thought that I'll just let what might have been the case there. So
Case
it.
is very simple. You
Hmm.
see, when after the Holocene period, the
Yeah,
water level started rising. So
yeah,
Dwarka was built several times.
yeah,
And the original Dwarka is 120-meter away
yeah.
from current
Right,
Dwarka.
right.
So what
Yeah,
Krishna
yeah.
made at that time, the city at the shore, that is probably the third or fourth Dwarka. And there is one which was made in 1425 BC. That is another Dwarka. So many people say that Dwarka is this, and this is 1425. Therefore,
Yeah,
Mahabharat is 1425 BC.
yeah.
They are wrong. Again, the same thing. The age of the
Okay,
stuff.
okay,
So, marine
okay.
archaeologists,
Yeah,
they have confirmed that
okay,
there are
okay.
several cities known as Dwarka in the water. And about your
Okay.
Srinagar
So,
business, they traveled by boats. There was
okay,
a small stretch of water. It was
uh,
not very deep, shallow,
okay,
and they knew the mountains. The safer ways are there uh, by boat.
okay, okay. So you are talking about that crossing from Sri Lanka to India, which Rama
India
crossed.
itself was much deeper, much outer in towards the ocean.
Okay,
And
okay.
Sri Lanka was also this way because 100, say, half a kilometer or
Uh,
quarter kilometer of this side and that side
okay,
submerged in water, right?
okay. Yeah, yeah.
Then that means some of the islands which
Uh,
were connecting, they are
uh,
submerged.
okay. So I have another question. You said lot of corruptions. Like sand and all these things. Now, can't cases be filed against the persons involved who are still living? For all those corruption cases, is there any provision in the law, or is anybody, or central government, or any other person will be willing to do that?
Actually, uh, once the court declares, like even when Modi came, A.
Uh,
Raju was in jail for 2G scam.
uh, uh,
And the Supreme Court, after the BJP government was sworn in a year later, he was released. So Supreme Court is going in a different direction, and it is more of a nuisance for the government than anything else.
okay.
It's
Now,
not cooperative. In fact, it is enemy of the. They are all secular Congressites, Christians. This Chandrachud, the current one,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
he is boasting, I'm a Harvard law
yeah,
graduate.
yeah.
But you are
Right.
not in America. If you are
Uh,
practicing law in America, Harvard
uh,
has a meaning.
yeah,
Indian Penal Code and Indian civil and common traditions. Law
yeah.
cannot violate the common practices.
Right,
Common.
right.
There is
Yeah,
a penal code, civil code, then there is
mm,
common law.
yeah.
They are encroaching on the common law.
So, what do you think, should be done? Because corruptions cannot be allowed to, perpetuate
Corruption has
without any proper investigation.
corruption is getting like investigated, and but as long as this judicial system is there,
Yeah.
It is